Has Ryan got that to plug in or to hit him with?
Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 472, being recorded on October 18th, 2017. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath, in the correct order that I'm supposed to be tonight, because everybody's here for a change.
And I'm Allyn Momentano that finally got a chance to say something.
Well, we fixed that, didn't we? Welcome to the show, everyone. I don't have any funny, witty things to say at the beginning, I guess. How's everybody doing? It's been so long since I've seen Josh.
That's okay. My life's just as crappy as the last time you saw me, so.
Okay.
I see the motorcycle helmets are still in the same place.
Different headphones?
No, they're the Grado SR 225s have had for a long time.
Different on your monitor, maybe?
Well, you know what? It's the blue shirt really brings out the blue in my eyes and the headphones.
I'm with it. Welcome to the show. We record and talk about computer hardware sometimes. Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific is when we do record the show. You can watch us record it, hang out in the chat room, all that type of stuff at PCPer.com/live. If you need a little reminder about said event so that you can be sure to participate in all of it, you can go to PCPer.com/subscribe as soon as he figures out how our rundown works. And come on, ESPN is beating us to this punch here. And if you want to join us for the live stream in this very seamless, always prompt, and always very technically capable setup, you go to PCPer.com/subscribe, get your name and your email address in those fields right there, and we'll send you an email about our podcast. And that will be it. That's all of it. And also we have our Patreon campaign, patreon.com/PCPer. This is your way to become a monthly regular contributor to PC Perspective if you would like to. Now the text is highlighted. I don't know what's going on anymore. And as is always the case, if you become a new patron or increase your patrons during the show, I will read your name off on the live stream and thank you for it profusely.
He will read whatever you put for your name.
Indeed. Other notes, just in case we have posted another episode of the Mailbag, which you can see at youtube.com/PCPer. You can see that wonderful dude right there. Wearing a bright yellow shirt, talking about computer hardware.
Whole animation of Ryan Shroud going swiping back and forth. That's really, high speed, low drag.
It's really worth seeing that all of the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So check that out. All right, so let's get into stuff. We did post a PCPer Plays as well. Me and Jim walked through some Shadows of the Empire from 1997. Literally got the takedown dispute, not takedown notice. What do you call it? Like a copyright notice. 30 seconds after the stream was over on the live stuff, and then like 30 seconds after the video was done processing for the posted version because it has all the Star Wars music in it. Go figure, it's a Star Wars game.
Well,
so
yeah. I mean, is that even fair use then? Like, it's not like...
I mean, I think it should be.
Should be.
Whatever, I don't really care.
Yeah, whatever.
Play in your damn game, leave me alone.
So Shadows of the Empire. It was a good game. Now it's an okay game. All right, technology. Let's talk about this. This actually launched while they were recording the podcast last week. While you and I were out of town, we were at Western Digital learning about this technology. MAMR, M-A-M-R. The quick overview is this is the technology that's going to let us get up to 40 terabyte hard drives.
And bigger.
That's what they say. But they only quoted 40 terabytes. I wanted to quote like a 100 terabyte hard drive, but we're not there
well,
yet.
I mean, there's still a limit. Like, you know.
No. Unlimited hard drive storage. You put it in the microwave, turn it on. Every 30 seconds, your hard drive is in the microwave. You double capacity. I think that's how the technology works. If I paid attention to the presentations.
Johnny Mnemonic, where you just get a drive doubler and poof, everything just like...
Exactly. So give us a quick rundown. What is this thing that Western Digital has announced, and why do I care?
All right. So there was a limit with hard drive technology, current perpendicular recording,
which is what all of our like over 4 terabyte hard drives, over 6 terabyte hard drives are using today.
Like everything over 320.
Well, no, yeah, it's, I mean,
gigabyte.
It's
Get perpendicular.
Yeah.
Get
Remember the Get Perpendicular thing?
That's a good song.
That was a while back too.
That's a good song.
Right?
It's like 2003, 2004 perpendicular
So
came
that
out.
let us get into like the terabyte range-ish, right? The whole shift to perpendicular, because if you tried to, lay the fields on their side, like it was very inefficient for space, right? And if you stack them, have them sticking up like dominoes, like that works better. Okay, so that's kind of solved and bought us all the way out to like around 20 terabytes is where, we really wouldn't be able to make hard drives any bigger.
So we only have up to 14 today?
Yeah.
But Western Digital said like they believe that the theoretical limit, the peak of what they can do with the current existing technology was about 20 terabytes.
Yep. And the reason is this thing called the paramagnetic threshold.
Yeah.
Which is you can only make magnetic domains so small and still be able to focus enough energy on that area in order to change the magnetic
You can only make them
properties.
so small while also maintaining enough strength to flip the pole.
Yeah. Smaller domains, even smaller write head in order to change the, such a small area, and you can only focus so much, magnetic force into that area, right? So you end up with a threshold that basically levels out to about 20 terabytes. So if we want to go higher than that, we need some other way, right? And we've talked a lot, and Jeremy actually has done probably dozens of news posts over the past couple of years talking about HAMR, right? Heat assisted magnetic recording, which is where you hit the media with a laser. That's this is the laser that's literally like the width of the track, which is super narrow anyway, right? So it's not a lot of power, but it's focused on such a small area that it's actually able to heat up that media up to like several hundred degrees centigrade just before you try to change the magnetism.
Aiding in what?
Aiding in, if the media is much hotter, then you are able to overcome that threshold, that limit.
Okay.
Because if it's hotter,
easier to flip
it's easier to flip the magnet.
bit.
Yeah, like if you overheat a magnet, it's not magnetic anymore.
See,
right?
I didn't know that until learning about this tech. But okay.
So same kind of thing applies there. So you just needed some way to add extra energy above what we could already do, right?
Got it.
Well, what if there was a way to add extra energy without adding heat?
Which would be good because heat has some unknown impact on reliability of these drives.
Yeah,
because anytime you heat up something to about 700 degrees Celsius, it's going to have a negative impact on the longevity of that device.
Yeah, and you start running into issues where you have to start treating hard drives like you treat SSDs now. You'd have to have like wear leveling, and you'd have to have all this other, and you would have a more finite amount of times you could overwrite the same area.
Perfect.
And
of
I'd
a hard
imagine
disk.
designing a laser that only shines within the width of that small of a width is a difficult problem to miniaturize and put in a hard drive.
It is difficult to miniaturize, but honestly, like they've actually come pretty far on that. The difficulty is really in the media.
Yeah.
It's really in making the media last to a degree where it's
constantly be heat cycled.
Something that could be mass produced and just end up in your desktop, right? So this thing called MAMR, which is microwave assisted magnetic recording, is like they caught me off guard with this, like completely. Like Ryan and I were both like
MAMR?
halfway through this presentation. We were not just the fact that we hadn't heard of it, which I probably should have heard of it because the technology has white papers like dating almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, what the hell?
But it was just one of the other potential hard drive technologies that we heard all about this HAMR stuff, but never heard about MAMR. Turns out WD was like working on this stuff for like 8 or 9 years or something, trying to make it work. And it's not microwave like, don't think microwave oven heating up your Hot Pockets. Because it's not. It's not adding
microwaves.
It's not adding energy. It's not adding enough energy that it's going to even make a noticeable difference in the temperature.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is where the advantage in reliability comes in.
Yeah. It's not even if it warmed up a little bit, like it's nowhere near what HAMR's doing. Yeah.
Which is a lot still.
But the primary thing that makes this work is not by adding heat at all. It's by how the microwaves resonate, because the microwaves are at a specific frequency that actually causes a resonance of the field that's there, that's stored. In other words, you had a north pointing up, a south pointing down. The microwaves actually cause the field to do like what a gyroscope does when it starts Like, you know how it
starts to slow down.
No, it presses. Like, it has a precession to it. In other words, you try to tilt it one way, it angles another way.
Okay.
Right? Like a gyroscope does. This field resonates, like it's at the resonance frequency of the magnetic field that's stored on the track. Okay. And it causes, instead of the field to be like perpendicular like it was, it starts to put it on an angle. It's like twisting around on an angle. Right? Sort of like the thing the gyroscope does as it's running out of steam and it's about to, like a top, it's about to tip over, right? If the field is not perfectly up and down and directly opposing the thing you're trying to do, in other words, you're trying to write the opposite thing, right? If you're able to get it to tilt,
it makes it easier to flip.
First, it's making it easier to kind of just nudge it the other way, and that resonance is actually adding the extra energy that you needed to overcome that paramagnetic limit, right? Now, what's amazing about this is like the amount of energy that it takes to do the microwave thing, it's like 100th of the energy used that the right head would normally apply.
Right.
So this thing is able to make like a 2 to 3 times increase in effectiveness of the right head by only adding like 1% of the energy. It's just doing something different with the energy.
Right.
Right? It's a different kind of energy. It's not a magnetic field now. It's an electromagnetic resonance instead. And it's like at a really high frequency. You're talking like tens of gigahertz, which was another engineering challenge, Ken, actually. That was the challenge why this thing hasn't been a thing so far. These guys made a thing that can generate 20 to 40 gigahertz microwaves, and they fit it inside the head. It's not even next to the head. It's in the center of the head.
Well, if you think about it, that's actually like a common, like that's a really robust innovation space and technology now. If you're thinking like 5G, where you're dealing with cell phones that need radios that do microwaves in the same sort of, so there's a lot of people working on the miniaturization of microwaves.
Yes.
And I'm sure a lot of that research helped Western Digital do this.
Here's what's even more amazing. This thing is it purely makes the microwaves based on the composition of its material. You apply a DC voltage to this thing, and the more current you put through it, the higher frequency it goes. That's sweet, right? There's no logic. It's a literal, so that leads us into like, okay, you know, it's another one of those potentially vaporware acronyms that they've thrown at us that we're going to be hearing about. That's going to be like Hammer was going to be the what I said in the article. It's going to be, this is going to be the next best storage technology within the next 3 to 5 years. And we've been saying that for like 15 years or something, right? This technology is probably not going to suffer from that problem because A, they've already figured out how to make these microwave generators.
Right.
Okay. B, that like one of the things they talked about was that Western Digital has already pioneered a different way of making hard drive heads that they have been using for the past like over 3 years. And that technology allows them to integrate this microwave generator into their heads. Right. So in other words, they already have the technology to enable this thing, right? The only other thing you add to today's hard drive, like you have a hard drive today, shipping.
I do.
Right?
Yes.
The only thing you add to it is a couple of wires coming off of the control chip at the end of the head, or just before the end of the head, that basically you just need 2 more leads just to be able to turn on and off this microwave generator. Nothing else changes. The way you write the track stays the same. The rest of the head stays the same. The rest of the logic for the drive stays the same, except for just turning this thing on when you're doing writes. It's literally just turn this on when you're writing, and you can write to a space at potentially 3 times the density.
So 40 terabyte drives like December or January then?
No, here's why.
No.
Because the media and the ability to sputter and produce like the media itself with domains that are smaller and smaller still has to progress, and they can't just flip some switch at the fab and poof, we suddenly have magnetic domains that are like 1/3 the size, right?
Okay.
So that's still going to take some time, but there's no real barriers to that other than just innovating in the tech, right? Yep. Which is cool, right? It's basically
the net result of which is that they claim to have, on the roadmap now, 40 terabyte hard drives, regular like 15% increases in storage density
per
and kind
year.
of a normal cadence.
Yep.
Right. They have much better reliability than what they think Hammer's going to do. And then they also are able to basically say that where we thought hard drives and SSDs were going to cross on the cost per dollar spectrum at some point, I think most people were estimating like 2024 or something to that effect.
There was going to be a crossover.
Yeah, because hard drive density increases had slowed, and SSD densities will continue to go. Now, Western Digital basically says through 2030, they think hard drives, at the minimum through 2030, will continue to be able to offer a 10x improvement in performance per dollar or storage per dollar compared to SSDs. Maintaining their place in data centers and in long-term storage and all this other stuff. Because we also talked about, I wrote about in my Market Watch piece on this, like the need for data storage is never going to go away. It's never going to get smaller. Everybody's creating more data. We want access to it. The biggest problem is how do you access and organize it? But we know that it will be on hard drives, or a vast majority of it. Like
big
Western
data will be
Digital
on hard
claims 90% of the storage that exists will continue to exist on hard drives.
Yeah, 90% of the capacity.
Of the capacity, will continue to exist into the foreseeable future, which is, talking to some of the storage specific analysts that were there, people who've been doing this their whole lives. Like one of the guys in the meetings I was in said, this fundamentally changed my outlook on the next decade of storage. Like he was of the mindset that hard drives were going to go away in the next 5 years.
That was probably Jim Handy.
No, hard drives were going to go away in the next 5 years and was going to be replaced by SSDs, and everybody was going to be okay with that because Western Digital bought into SSDs, and everybody had diversified into flash and spindle based drives. Yeah. But now they've come up with this, and he's like, well, now I just think the next 10 years are going to be totally different than what he thought. So it's, even though it's not something we're going to see a product on until 2019, and
they don't really need to implement it until they're actually up against that 20 terabyte wall. Right. But yeah, they do plan on doing it like within a year or two.
So, even though it feels like it's really far out, it's pretty quick for a technology cadence like this. And that will be something that you'll be able to do for the next decade, is count on hard drives.
And hey,
people thought were gone.
Look on that chart. Look at the yellow line, Ryan. Look at the yellow line. It crosses 10 cents a gig.
Hell yeah, it does.
It crosses 10 cents a gig, but it's 2024.
I was close.
Boo.
I still think it's going to happen.
So, I mean, that chart puts QLC at 2022. Aren't we even starting to see people talk about QLC now? And like,
they're talking about it.
It's gonna be sooner than 2022, right?
I mean, seeing them like, in a lot of places in production. Not only that, but they're not like that QLC blurb on that isn't. Well, it does say 2022, but it's like,
That seems a little bit.
It seems like their
negative.
SSD predictions
seems
may
a little
be
bit far out.
This might be based on their technology and not all technology.
Could be, but I mean, it's going to be a while before you have a QLC, the mass media area of your SSD. It's like a SLC cache ahead of a whole chunk of QLC. Like it might very well be 2022 before that's in a desktop SSD. Yeah, because TLC is pretty good right now. Yeah. It's a good balance of efficiency,
but it's not 10 cents per gigabyte.
Yeah. I mean, it's diminishing. You have to realize though, it's also diminishing returns, right? You went from SLC to MLC, you got 50% more space.
Oh, I get it.
The next rung is only 33% more. Yeah. The next rung is only a quarter more, right? So it's like, there's a hesitation to go to QLC, right?
I mean,
not on my part.
So Toshiba NWD announced QLC 96 layer flash in June. So why would they be producing flash that they don't expect to be?
It's the fact that they can do it, but it's not meant for like your computer SSD.
What SSDs are there besides computer?
It would be
SSDs?
In like things that are like very few. That like, in other words, in that same announcement, they were talking about using it for archival storage. In other words, write once.
Sure.
And just come back to it years later and read it. Read as many times as you want, but you're only writing it very few times because the endurance just isn't there, right? You can't beat the crap out of the channel material and then expect it to hold charge at QLC states, which is 16 different states, and be able to read that, reliably, right? Anyway.
All right.
So good stuff.
So that's good stuff from Western Digital. Good job on MAMR.
Yep.
Let's talk about a couple other things real quick. So Maury posted his first X370 motherboard. This might be Maury's first AMD motherboard review. I don't know if that's the case. If it's not his
At
first,
least for us.
That's true. And if it's not his first here, it's his first in a very long time. And we'd had a lot of people asking for these AM4 board reviews, so here you go. The typical Mori detail fashion. So this is their Crosshair.
Nice looking board.
Yeah, it is. Is this the board we had here?
Yeah, that's the board we
This is what
use
the board
for
we
our
got
review.
for our reviews of it, right?
Yeah.
It's got lots of RGB. It's got the compatibility for AM3 and AM4 coolers, lighting control. Obviously, it has 3D. I still like this idea. I don't know how many people are going to use it, but the mounts for like 3D printed accessories. No PS2 ports, disappointingly, I think. No PS2 ports, but lots of USB headers across the way, one Ethernet. So, in general, this is actually well, let's see. Is this one of the higher feature count boards for X370 now, or have we gone kind of beyond that?
It is. It's still a $250 product.
Yeah.
And it's higher for X370. It's not the highest, but it's darn close.
You've got what they call the ROG water cooling zone. We talked about the Sync RGB, Supreme FX, 5-way optimization, USB 3.1 support, M.2, USB 3.1 Type A and C in that regard. Does it have 2 M.2 slots on this guy? I think I only see.
I think it's only got one.
I think it's only got one.
Really? There's only the one.
There's one here.
I thought every single
vertical one.
I thought every single one of the 370 SKUs had 2.
No.
It may be hiding. No, I'm serious. Like I went through the specs the other day.
I can look at the back of this, and I can look at.
If it has one, I'd be
spec
really
sheets.
surprised.
Storage, one M.2 socket 3 with M key.
Yeah.
And then just one.
That's really surprising.
I don't think it's shocking, but whatever.
But it's crafted with the finest Corinthian leather.
Okay.
And so that
Right.
adds a 30%.
Yeah.
That RGB.
Increase.
Have you ever had
Corinthian leather.
motherboards covered in leather?
And 20 karat gold connectors.
Mm.
And I think we've looked at this board a couple times off and on, and generally with our CPU reviews as well. So you can take a look through this. The feature set is there, SLI Crossfire support. You can see the typical Mori giant ass heatsink pictures that are necessary for every review. Good spacing between the cooler and the graphics card there. So a lot of the Intel motherboards we see recently do not have that.
Yeah.
Still looks like 2 damn heat sinks instead of 1 in those shots, but hey, I like that you can configure the fan to rest above even the tall memory configurations there. So performance was really good. The overclocking capability. The only thing that Mori had issues with was getting memory to clock over 3200 megahertz. He was able to get the memory that he was used at up to 4 gigahertz on Intel platforms, although the memory controllers on the Ryzen parts and on Intel parts are very, very different. And so it's very likely that with some different memory, he would have been able to get over 3200 on this particular system. But in terms of overclocking, how high did he get this up here? 3.9 gigahertz on all cores. I think I was able to get mine up to 4 initially. He has the 1700X. I had the 1800X, but shouldn't be a dramatic difference there. So 3.9 gigahertz on the processor, 3200 megahertz on the memory speed is going to equate to a very fast Ryzen 7 system. $234 on Amazon and Newegg and BH Photo. So
I guess that there's a few issues with this board that people have been complaining about for quite a few months. One, they're a little slow on the firmware updates.
Really?
Yeah, they're on the first version of AGESA 1.006. I guess there's 1.006A.
Not like Asus to do that.
Updates. I mean, yeah, it's odd because they're usually some of the first, but I know that ASRock has been a lot more aggressive with their Tiki board. So there's a lot of debate if the Crosshair 6 Hero is kind of the cream of the crop. So it's going to be interesting to see what Asus does. It was one of the very first AM4 boards out.
I mean, it was our launch board. It was the one Asus or AMD sent with processors for us.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to,
Yeah. No.
Smash this into the ground. But there's I've been reading around, and there is some concerns about the design and how Asus is kind of supporting it. So it's going to be interesting to see if this will have the legs, and if they can fix some of the problems with firmware. I don't know.
I will say, we've had a couple of issues with Asus BIOSes recently, just not on this board, but in general, that they seem a little confused on what settings are defaults and core clocking and all this type of stuff. So yeah, and then what was the issue we saw recently? Was it Asus that was getting in trouble for the
defaults,
criticized for the defaults and
they were their
multi-core enhancement on Z370.
Yeah, that was the core enhancement setting.
Asus and Gigabyte.
Well, it was a combination of two things. It was the core enhancement, multi-core enhancement, and the default on some boards is set to like sync all cores. So not only was it enhancing the cores, but it was basically overclocking all of them slightly, or at least getting them all to go at the max turbo clock.
So I have confidence that Asus will address that stuff, but it's worth looking into. In terms of Maury's review, stock performance, overclock potential, aesthetics, BIOS, RGB, and the Aura applet, all good strengths. Weaknesses of the memory support over 3200, and it's, of course, CMOS battery placement. There was a funny comment in here that the CMOS battery should have a motorized pop-up holder with RGB lighting. 5 out of 10. So that's
going to happen one day, just for Maury.
Yep.
Another quick note. We upgraded our network with some stuff, I guess. It's not really a review as much as it is kind of like an experience report. Yes. So, Ken, could you stand up in front of the class and tell us about your project?
Well, for my project, I decided to finally update the aging infrastructure of the office.
Okay. All right.
So, essentially...
And he doesn't mean you.
Yeah.
Well...
Yeah. Essentially, when we moved into this place, we had the local telco install our gigabit fiber connection, and we said, okay, that's good. We plugged in the gigabit switch we already had, plugged in some switches into some more switches, and called it a day.
The switch with the 2x4 glued to the back of it?
That was still in use.
Yeah. Gluing a 2x4 to the back of a switch does not affect its performance. It simply affects... the usability of the product as a physical item. Anyway, continue.
It's a mounting solution.
Yes, thank you.
Solution. So in preparation for some other things that we want to do with our network, like move to 10 gig on a lot of our work computers and test beds, we decided to go ahead and take a look at the infrastructure of our network and pay some attention and actually get some good gear in here.
Ugh.
Yeah, right. So Ubiquiti was kind enough to send over a couple pieces of equipment. The first being their UniFi Security Gateway Pro 4, which essentially is just a router for all intents and purposes. If you try to tie it back to home gear, it's an enterprise level router and firewall that you just plug your WAN connection in and you plug your LAN connection into your switch, and you kind of go about your business.
Right.
So it's, from a hardware perspective, it's a fairly simple device. You shove it in a rack or on a shelf if you don't have a rack, and you go about your day. However, the software side is where it really starts to shine. If you scroll down, you can probably open that screenshot in a new tab. Well, it's a little too big.
All right.
So the cool stuff about the UniFi line from Ubiquiti is that all of their pieces work together. So we have the security gateway acting as our router, and we have a UniFi access point for our wireless connection. So what we end up getting is a whole bunch of information about our network, exactly what traffic is going across. They have this feature called Deep Packet Inspection, which if you move to the next screenshot in the review, you'll actually see, well, where it'll tell you exactly what is going across your network. It will identify traffic to certain services. Like here we see we've been doing a lot of traffic to Backblaze recently as we've been backing up 10 terabytes fairly slowly. We do a lot of work with Dropbox, someone's phone synced to iCloud in recent history, and so on and so forth. So essentially, it gives you just kind of all the information about what's going on in your network. Now, this security gateway has a bunch of features, a bunch of pro level features like VLANs and stuff like that we haven't exactly dug into yet. But so far, it's been a really good experience. It's been a solid piece of gear. We haven't really had any problems with the network after we switched some stuff over.
Sure.
We had some configuration issues we had to work through, but we were trying to do some kind of advanced, silly stuff.
We also got this device, which is...
that's the access point.
Okay.
Ubiquity. You know, they're one of the first to actually have patches for the WPA2 issues.
I applied it to our access point on Monday.
These guys are on the ball.
Yeah. And this stuff
Unlike
is...
Linksys.
This stuff is... I'll downright say inexpensive. So that...
For what you get.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's enterprise level stuff. I mean, you could absolutely use this in a large scale campus deployment if you wanted to, and it's cheap enough that you could use it at home. I'm thinking about picking up one of these.
It's like 25% the cost of a Cisco one.
Yeah.
Now, I will say about this access point, we have come into the office twice where it was off.
Yeah, I think that might have something to do with...
Because this is a power over
with the
Ethernet.
manual firmware update I did on Monday for the Krack stuff.
Okay, because it's power over Ethernet, which is great.
Yeah, they give you the injector too. So
yeah, and if, we don't really utilize the benefit of that because ours just sits on top of a switch in our office. But in theory,
it's probably roasting itself.
No, it's pretty well airflowed right there. Okay. But I've never picked it up and felt it as warm. But yeah. And we're also not doing a huge amount of wireless traffic, in general either. But so what is, you say, like reasonable cost? What, like this access point is $130?
Yeah,
for a 3x3.
Yeah, let me
AC.
look up the USG router. That is that's still only $250, and that's the highest end one they offer. Okay. And we end up getting the Pro because
has support for dual WAN. Did you mention that?
Yeah, so you could do failover if we got a cable connection in here as well. We could do bonding and failover and send some traffic through the cable connection if we want to. We could send all of our illicit traffic over the cable connection, use the fiber for the business stuff.
Right.
If we want to do that, a bunch of cool stuff like that. We ended up getting the Pro because we have a gigabit connection, and the lesser products, if you turn on the deep packet inspection stuff, the processing power can get a little bogged down and not let you get full bandwidth. But we've had no issues. We get full bandwidth from our connection through it, and it's just mostly a transparent piece of gear unless you need some features.
Can you believe we had to replace this guy right here?
That's ISO?
Yeah. I thought this would switch to this computer. No, not that.
That's not that.
There it is. That one. I thought we'd keep this guy forever.
To be fair, we weren't using the 802.11n built into that.
We
were using a separate router for Wi-Fi in access point mode. So we weren't totally in the Stone Age, but yeah.
All right. Let's run through our news items here. BiCS lighters. Tell me about them.
They were made in like a long time ago.
I think they still make them.
Still make them. They're more plasticky now.
They're cheaper than Zippos, less reliable, but you can buy them at a gas station real cheap. All right, now tell me about Toshiba BiCS.
It's flash memory.
BiCS.
It's their 3D flash.
Lowercase I.
It is Toshiba's 3D NAND, of which they can make in they're making consumer stuff 64 layer now, but as Ken was talking about, like they recently announced like 96 layer, which we posted about a month back or so.
This is in June.
Was it all the way back in June?
This was in June.
Yeah, there was one announcement where it's
been a short year.
Toshiba and Western Digital were kind of like sideswiping each other because Toshiba said, "Oh, we can do." Like one company said, "We can do 96 layer," and then like 3 days later, the other company said, "Oh, we can do quad level cell." And then they were both talking about the same flash. Anyway,
do we have a drive on this yet?
That has this in it?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
The TR200?
Toshiba TR200.
Oh,
I thought you had that
we do.
TR200.
We do have that. Yeah.
Yep.
You're a liar.
Yeah, we have it. We have
You're
been
a lying liar that lies.
We have been distracted by other things.
For its price.
You've been using it as a doorstop, haven't you?
No.
I wedged it under one of the legs of my seat so it wouldn't wobble.
No, there's 3 of them on my desk. Minus, well, 2 now that your seat's not wobbly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So soon on that?
Well, yes, soon.
All right. That's fine by me. More 3D NAND is better.
Yes.
Jeremy, you posted this up. MSI GTX 1080 Ti Gaming X Trio. This is the game of suffixes. So what's awesome about it?
Well, essentially the Trio comes from the fact that this has got the Trifrozer cooler on it. So you got the 10 centimeters on the outside and the 9 in the middle. So you get a little bit of fancy airflow on your super pipes.
And Sebastian can attest to that Trio cooling thing.
Super pipes.
I don't.
Yeah.
It looks
Wasn't
like it has
he complaining
LEDs
about that
too.
last week?
Well, he's complaining about the specific 290X Lightning, which
Oh, well.
was a card.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was an older Frozer cooler.
Yes.
But yeah, it's got Mystic Light on it. So you've got 3 different zones of RGBs, and you can sync it with
Mystic, oh, God.
compatible motherboards and other components as long as it'll do the Mystic Lighting. And apart from that, I mean, it's got a decent overclock at the gaming mode of 1607 megahertz. 1600 and 1620 rather. 1607 on gaming.
Yeah.
So it's a decent overclock for a TI.
Yeah.
It's going to stay relatively cool. And if you like the glow, it's got it for you.
Yeah, I mean, somebody in the chat says, another TI, blah, 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 which is like accurate. Oops. Which is like accurate. But it's still the best performing graphics card that exists. So,
Titan XP, bro.
They're still going to keep making these and upselling. And this clearly is a 3-slot design. This is.
Yeah.
And they don't give, us a profile shot here,
you're
Jeremy.
feeling the flow.
Yeah.
You're liking the glow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Asus announced a ROG Strix monitor. They are now applying this brand to essentially everything in the world. I guess they always had ROG, but they didn't have Strix.
We talked about this last week, actually. How Strix just kind of got absorbed into ROG at some point, and now there's
notebooks. There's no differentiation. Yeah,
between ROG and Strix, it's just all one.
So now it's just one term.
Honestly, ROG is a good acronym for a phrase that is dumb. Right?
Yeah.
Republic of Gamers doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's for enthusiasts and not necessarily only gamers. Strix is kind of like just a cool word that doesn't have any baggage attached to it. So I'm fine with that. But let's just get rid of ROG then. Just call it Asus Strix and move on. But clearly they're not going to. What is unique about this particular display? Anything, Jeremy, stand out to you?
Got lights in its bum.
Ooh, of course.
I mean,
they went for the exact same, and you guys have seen one of these monitors and made the same comment of, why would you put a light circle behind the monitor where no one's ever going to see it?
Yeah, there have been models that do the same thing with the stand.
Yeah,
we have
the one on the
there.
bottom is decent, but the one behind it is just really questionable.
Oh, is there also one behind it?
Scroll down just a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, if you see the back of your desk, like...
Is it bright enough to reflect off of a wall and do that Philips
Maybe if you put a
thing?
mirror there.
No, like the desk in my house.
I like bias lighting.
The back of the monitor.
I would like more of it.
Yeah.
On the back of my
I agree with you, Josh. I just don't think this is going to be bright enough for the bias lighting, and it's also not close enough to the edges of the screen.
What is the other monitor that has that built in? Is it
there was a
just
big
this
TV
one, or
that
is it
had
another?
I mean, it's cool if your desk is oriented in such a way where people are potentially walking behind it. Or if you're,
if you some monitor that had it. It may have been this one, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
but I remember Antec sold that bias lighting kit for a while, and I didn't get a hold of it. I wanted to.
It's a 144 hertz panel,
handy.
But the FreeSync range tops out at 140, which seems weird. That's a weird limit, unless it's a typo.
No, probably not. I think we've seen that on another. Wait, it tops out at what? What's the
140, not 144.
144. I don't. Yeah.
Typically, the top end of the panel is just the top end. Like it's just,
I wonder if there's some math thing that is easier that way. I don't know.
That would be my bet, and then you can just set it at a static 144 hertz. And so for everyone complaining, oh, it's a 1080p monitor, well, you want 144 hertz.
Like we've tested other FreeSync
at low cost, I think too.
We've tested 144 hertz FreeSync panels that went all the way to 144. That's why I'm just baffles me.
Yeah, I don't know.
This one's $350, so
$350
maybe not their top
Yeah,
It's
it's not
pretty
bad.
cheap. So,
And it's what's the type of panel? What is it? TN?
VA.
It's VA.
VA, yeah.
It's a VA.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really good price.
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably not the neatest VA out there, but it's certainly good. And it also comes with a display widget. I don't know if you guys have played with that or not, but it's like an enhanced on-screen display software utility that you can launch and use with your mouse.
Oh my god, finally.
As opposed to clicking and then screwing around with a little joystick
How has
on
that not been a thing yet?
Didn't we test some display
brilliant.
that was kind of sort of like that, but like
Yeah.
it was really
EIZO company that did one display that had that. But like, how is that not a universal feature at this
It also
point?
had like a phone app or something.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Like you could mess with the OSD settings all in the phone app or something.
Right.
Bluetooth pair your phone to your computer monitor.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's change up gears, talk about a mobile device, the Huawei Mate 10. Not much to talk about here. Sebastian wrote this news post up. So this is their continuation of launching high-end smartphones. This one features a new 3D glass body, which is...
In other words, curved.
I mean, I guess... I mean, it's clearly 3 dimensions because I can hold it in my hand.
It's curved.
But yeah. The kind of interesting thing here from my perspective is that it uses the new Kirin 970 processor, which they announced a couple of months ago. So it's the new fastest SoC from, what is it, HiSilicon / Huawei. They're the same company. The 970 includes, 8? Where did he have that in there? Yeah, 8-core CPU, 12-core Mali G72 GPU. It includes their neural processing unit for AI-related tasks. What I find curious about this is now, Huawei announced this, Apple announced this, Qualcomm has, neural net specific stuff in their mobile devices. What the Kirin 970 does with it.
Yeah.
Like I know what Apple does with it. They have control over the software stack and the hardware stack, so they can do interesting things. Qualcomm, being the largest provider of SoC, it tries to get Google to do things with it. Tries to get OEMs applications to use some of those DSPs and
some API
processors.
thing. I'm sure
I'm just curious what the Kirin 970 and the Mate 10 do with some of that extra processing tech, because they were technically the first to announce a neural net processor on their SoC.
And they're in a better place than someone like Qualcomm technically, because they make the whole device. They're making phones as well.
Sure, but what they don't do is they don't make the software, and that's really
they do.
Well,
like, this has a camera app that uses it. Like they don't make the operating system, but they make software that runs on top of the OS that utilizes it.
Okay, yeah. Utilizing the dual Leica, or the new Leica dual camera with Sumilux H lenses, both featuring an aperture of f1.6. An intelligent photography, including AI-powered real-time scene and object recognition and AI-powered bokeh effect, which is more or less what the Pixel 2
Well, the Pixel 2 does it with one camera.
Yes.
It does the fake bokeh with one camera.
Yeah,
that
seems to be it does an AI-powered bokeh. So this, well, I mean, they're all bogus because one of them is just taking a blurry picture that it puts behind you.
Sure, but Pixel 2 reviews came out this week, and it seems to be a little iffy.
Oh, really?
With the
picture,
depth
I thought the
stuff.
stuff I saw that it was pretty good.
So are there two different phones here? Is one the Pro?
Yes, one is the Mate 10, and the other one is the Mate 10 Pro.
Which gets you what?
The Mate 10 is a 5.9 inch with an IPS display supporting HDR10. Mate 10 Pro is a 18:9 OLED display, also with HDR10. So it's an IPS versus an OLED, and it's a little bit taller. The Pro is a little bit taller than the standard. They both have the same SoC. They both have 4,000 milliamp hour batteries.
Wait. Might as well just start calling it amp hours by now.
Yeah, 4 amp hours of that.
Yep.
Fast charging support, 1% to 20% in 10 minutes, or 1% to 58% in 30 minutes.
Pretty good.
For a battery that size, especially. Yeah. Even more so. They ship with Android 8, simplified EMUI, which I hope they actually live up to that claim, right? Less garbage around it, more direct Google stuff. But obviously that's what they wanted to try to inject some of their capability into that. So no U.S. pricing that I know of. At least as Sebastian wrote this, European pricing for the Mate 10 was 64 gigs and 4 gigs of memory is 699 euros. And the Mate 10 Pro was 799. So I think those are mid to late November release, I think. So we'll try to get our hands on those to do some performance testing of that new SoC too. I think we already mentioned this, but is it worth mentioning again the Wi-Fi security crack, or is this a different one?
We had only mentioned it in passing when talking about the Ubiquity.
Right. Is this a different one, Jeremy, or is this the same thing?
Nope. This is the same one.
Okay.
The same thing, but now the researchers published their stuff, right? So we're after the date where now it's just out.
Right.
Yeah. They had an embargo that they placed upon it because they notified manufacturers.
That's fair.
Yeah. So that's a good idea. That's out now. So now's the time to look to your manufacturer of your router and make sure you know.
Well, the router isn't the biggest deal.
Well, the router
running an old Android phone, just get rid of the damn thing.
It's also an issue, though.
It's that every client needs a patch as well, which don't exist yet.
Well, but that'll just come
no clients unless you're running certain Linux kernels.
Yeah, I think Microsoft patched it. I think it's already been pushed out as a patch.
Yeah, it was last Tuesday.
That's why there was an embargo. Like it gave Microsoft a chance to do a patch.
But the embargo was also for patches, so people shouldn't have pushed patches before Monday.
No, the purpose of the embargo.
They didn't announce it
so that it can be patched first.
I would hope that would be the case. Yeah.
So the original knowledge base article for that update just said various security updates for Wi-Fi.
They don't publicize.
They did not give any details.
Well,
they don't publicize
on the Krack Attacks website, they yelled at FreeBSD for pushing theirs too early. Like they specifically call out FreeBSD.
Well, you can't tell FreeBSD what to do.
Well, that's pretty much what they said. So they said, well, now we just won't tell FreeBSD as early. They won't be in the club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be in the club. Good sandwich.
But yeah, essentially everything is susceptible to one level or another. Even the Microsoft patched one, if someone's got physical access and can essentially put an access point inside your network, can still sort of get at you unless you're using Internet Explorer, which screws up the four-way handshake bad enough that it is actually invulnerable to this, which is kind of fun.
So bad it's good. I like it.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah. There are some Raven Ridge leaks that have come out, starting with a data sheet that was actually, I think this actual product was listed on HP's website for a certain amount of time, but the data sheet, which is a PDF, remains, where they announced too early a system, the HP Envy X360 2-in-1 notebook, which already exists as a system. It's got various Intel processors in it. This time, what's interesting is that it uses the Ryzen 5 2500U quad-core processor. We get our first, these are the Ryzen mobile parts. These are the APUs with integrated Vega graphics as well. We get our first hints of, base clock of 2 gigahertz, burst of up to 3.6 gigahertz, 6 megs of cache. They call it Vega M for mobile on this. No real indications of the graphics performance necessarily from these leaks. But what's interesting is this isn't, I guess we wouldn't call this HP's flagship line of notebooks, but it's a good one. It's not like, I don't want to throw anybody in the
bottom of the barrel.
It's not like the $400 Latitude from Dell type college machine, plasticky type of stuff.
Latitude is business.
Well,
Inspiron is what you're thinking of, but they also make nice Inspirons as well.
I know, and that's why I was trying to think of a better example, but I couldn't come up with one. Sorry, Dell.
Look at those hinges.
So it's a modern design. It's a yoga style convertible. The one kind of downside that people are finding from this is that it has one 8 gig DIMM in it, which.
It's running at 2400.
And it's running at 2400, which is slow. But for a system from an architecture that we have clearly proven many times over that memory, frequency, and bandwidth are crucial to,
and having 2 channels.
And having 2 channels is very important to having that bandwidth. And also, now that you're adding graphics into the mix, like integrated GPU onto this, it's going to be
also going to hit that memory.
More important to have fast RAM.
I mean, it is HP, and
Yeah,
they've done
but-
this before.
Well, yeah.
I mean, are you saying that as
everyone
a,
did this before with
are you
APU
giving that as an
laptops.
excuse, or that they know what they're doing?
No, I think they don't care what they're doing.
Yeah.
I remember some of the previous excavator APUs. It's all been single channel with graphics in there.
Yeah, the majority of APU laptops have been single channel memory because
You would
OEMs
think-
just don't care.
I would hope that somebody in AMD is going, guys, wait, stop. You
No,
can't
they
do
have,
this.
except that person has suffered a major head injury from banging their head on the tables all around AMD.
yeah.
Then
for
AMD
years.
probably needs to give them a $10 discount because it's what it comes down to is unit cost. No one who knows about this is going to not buy this laptop because it doesn't have dual channel memory. Because if they really are interested in this, the people that know about this will put in another DIMM.
Well, my question would be,
Well, they'll
is
pay
there a
extra
second
for the
DIMM
dual
slot?
Yeah, there
channel
might not even
option.
be.
You know, because on the Intel side, it's not as important. It still matters, but not nearly as much. If there is a second DIMM, then yes, people who know will add it back in. But the real problem AMD is going to have is that people who go to buy these are either going to read reviews, or like the IT departments that get a sample in and determine which of these next notebooks they're going to buy 100 of.
Yep.
Do their side by sides. They're not worried about what the memory configuration is. They're worried about what's the cost for cost.
Yeah.
You know, if they
Which
get
is
from HP.
why it's single channel. It's because
Well,
of the cost.
Well, not
Yeah.
only that, but if this was the same model line that was previously offered with Intel parts,
It is.
and Intel was much less sensitive to the single versus dual channel thing, if you designed, from a design standpoint, if you designed that machine and it only just physically can fit one DIMM, right? Even if it's soldered on or something, if you can only have one channel worth of soldered on DRAM,
Right.
you can't. Just might not be the ability to add the second channel, which is also a negative for AMD generally speaking in this kind of a market, right? Because if every laptop was fine with one DIMM on Intel and now really kind of needs a second one to get max performance.
It's almost unfortunate that this Dell datasheet even spells that out, right? Because normally you don't really see that much detail.
It's very
so
clear.
it's like, hey, good for you for being honest, but also you totally screwed that up.
That's why I think it has a second slot. Is because that's in the data sheet, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't say one buy if it was soldered, probably.
No, I don't think you would.
No.
Yeah.
No, you definitely
Well,
wouldn't.
and they do mention there is a dual channel option. So
Okay.
they can charge a premium for those that actually do know.
Yeah.
And if you are selling them in bulk, you've got the option of, instead of having to buy two 8 gig DIMMs to replace the two 4s that were in there, you can just buy a single 8 gig, which actually will end up to cost less.
Right.
Yeah.
So dick move, but economically
All right.
sound.
Well, if it does have two slots, then there's their upsell and even more motivation for customers to
This
choose
really
the
sucks.
upsell.
Hopefully, we solve it someday with HBM on the
Just not
package, and they don't have
just
an
on the
option.
Maybe one day. In the meantime, let's talk about the performance leaks that
That was performance.
but we don't know that it came from the same system. This is the interesting thing.
okay.
So these results are actually pretty good for AMD. These are 3D Mark 11 results, so an old benchmark, but common when you're looking at integrated graphics testing, right? And again, we don't know if this configuration is using dual channel, single channel, what
Right.
frequency. All we
Right.
know is that there's a Ryzen 7 2700U, Ryzen 5 2500U, etc. And this is the summary of the results, right? So these top results are the rumored leak information, assuming it's all correct. You've got your graphics test, which looks at the GPU, and you've got your physics test that is essentially like a CPU equivalent. Now, what's interesting is we compared that these bottom two machines are Core i7-8550Us, which are the 8th generation quad-core Kaby Lake R parts.
Right.
Right, so quad-core hyper-threaded. The top one, the first Intel one, also has a discrete GeForce MX150, which is kind of like the minimum add-on for a notebook with Intel to kind of give it moderate graphics. Like what was the machine?
940MX was the previous one.
Yeah, but what machine just launched with the MX150? It wasn't the Surface Book. Like the Surface
Something else launched
laptop,
with
I think, has an MX150 option.
I'm not sure.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, there are. What didn't one of the Apple machines use? No, they would use AMD.
They announced the MX150 at Computech, so it's still a new part.
Yeah.
So the idea of the MX150 is get as a low power consumption as possible for a notebook configuration that might be like 30 to 40 watts.
It's roughly equivalent to like a GT 1030.
Yeah,
on the
got
desktop
it.
side.
And so what you see here is two things that stand out. One, if we just look at the graphics, the green bars, the Ryzen APU, the Ryzen mobile APU, is just behind the MX150 in terms of graphics perf, which is pretty good. Right? I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit higher, but that's actually pretty good for an integrated graphics.
It's within
on
striking
GPU.
distance of it. Yeah.
Now, if you look at it on the bottom green bar, 1772, that is the Intel IGP. So we're talking more than 2x perf for the APU, and not to mention like the driver differences and improvements you'll have for mainstream gaming and all that stuff. Also worth noting the CPU scores, the physics scores on the Ryzen Mobile. It's 6419. On the bottom processor from Intel, it's like within striking distance again, like 6600.
And that would just be physics that's pure.
Physics is CPU limited, right? Yeah. Like it's low resolution. They're testing the CPU.
No, I'm with you. It's just that you have the same CPU on.
Yeah, so that's what's interesting. If you look at the two Intel results, one of them is 8200 and one of them is 6600.
Yeah.
The difference, we believe, is that the HP Spectre X360 is a 15-inch machine that is larger, has more thermal.
Oh, you think it's boosting higher during the test?
It is.
Yeah.
And it's running, without any kind of thermal impact.
Or less thermal impact.
Right. Yeah. My theory is that the processor in the ZenBook is configured down to not be a 15-watt part anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
because these parts are configurable by the manufacturer for different
thermal envelopes.
So these are 15-watt Intel parts. So that's what's kind of interesting, right? So the APU is probably going to be like a 35-watt TDP, but that includes graphics, fairly high-performance graphics. So in theory, the top machine in the leak and the HP Spectre X360 should be about the same power consumption total for CPU, GPU.
Yeah.
Whereas the bottom one will be much lower power draw. So we would expect it to be better battery life and all that type of stuff.
I mean, moral of the story is that AMD looks pretty competitive.
They do. It's actually a really interesting thing. And we're supposed to start seeing these notebooks like November, December timeframe from AMD. These Raven Ridge is the code name, and Ryzen Mobile will be the actual name as we see it. So we're starting to see these
Ryzen M.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I don't know. I think it's just...
I thought it said Ryzen M or something.
Ryzen 7 2700U. So I kind of don't like that branding. You can't tell it's a mobile part until that last letter.
The U?
The U at the end of it, I think.
What's the U supposed to stand for even?
Like ultra low
The U
power.
is supposed to stand for Intel uses U on their comparable parts.
Yeah.
Oh.
But even though I think it's unfair because I think this is a 35-watt part and Intel's U is a 15-watt part. And Intel's does include graphics. It's bad graphics, but it does include graphics.
In a 15-watt part.
In the 15-watt part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be very curious to see what systems come out from this, what their performance looks like, all that type of stuff. So leaks as we go. A couple of other quick things. Qualcomm, they've already talked about their 5G modem. They've talked about 5G technology. Again, this is much like the storage technology, a 2019 type of deal. What they did was, what they've announced here is they've basically taken this, which is a 2U rack mount development system for their 5G NR, the NR standing for new radio, modem tech. And they've announced that they've been able to fit it into this, which is it's not a super thin, what did I say? Is it 11 millimeters, I think? I don't know if I put that in there. It's an 11 millimeter thick reference phone design that they built.
I mean, based on the size of the chip that you just showed there, it looks like they could make it smaller if they wanted to.
Well, a lot of it's the first smartphone design with integration with the X50 modem. It's a discrete modem, not integrated into an SoC yet. So that's one of the reasons it's a little bit bigger.
Yep.
They were able to showcase greater than 1 gigabit per second at the 100 megahertz band using only 2x carrier aggregation. I think we had to need 4 or 6 to get it on.
You need 4 for gigabit.
4 for gigabit today on LTE. The biggest thing was that they were proving the feasibility of millimeter wave technology in a smartphone. There have been a lot of debates about can you even put this into a smartphone style device because of the amount of surface area you need for the antenna?
Yeah.
To do that, and like things like holding your phone wrong are actually very
just holding
important
it at a certain certain orientation.
Your hand will block
that too.
The antenna, right? The antenna is pointed away. So they were basically trying to prove not speed at the millimeter wave, but connectivity at all in the millimeter wave in this smartphone design.
And they're pulling it off from the.
So they're able to do it, yeah. And they were able to do it with a transceiver and a antenna module that is all based in silicon, and it's all tiny.
I mean, at least, people will not have to worry so much in the future about the I don't want this radiation going through my body and everything. It can't
clearly stop.
It can't even break your your skin basically.
Yeah. It was funny. I was having a Twitter discussion with somebody about it, and there's a frequency inside in this band that cannot pass through water fluid at all. Yeah. So if it rains,
it's raining.
Don't use that one.
Yeah.
Right? Those types of things. So there's still a lot of challenges for them to get through, but they're just basically showcasing that this exists, that making claims.
Kind of curious what kind of power consumption it has.
Maybe that's why the phone's big also. It has a really big battery.
Yeah, they didn't really talk about it, about the power draw of it. They did claim that by 2019, by the time this product is actually commercialized, that they would get another 50% shrink on the transceiver module.
And probably reduce power consumption.
And I assume it would reduce power at the same time of doing that.
That phone almost looks like a battery pack with the phone added to it or something.
I find it kind of hilarious. At least they didn't show us one, but that there was no shrink between 2U rack and surface mount component that fits in phone.
In a phone.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they went to FDSOI with this other one, and so everything was cured and solved. Because of that magic technology.
This was a 1 year to 1 year transition. Because I was in Hong Kong at the 4G, 5G summit last year when they announced the 5G NR stuff at all. And they announced gigabit connectivity, showed first demo gigabit technology working. So this was the 4G, 5G summit was going on this week. So that's where that came from. So still got a while, but hey, it's there.
If you think about that, how often when you're walking around, are you actually in line of sight of a cell tower? You can actually see from where you're standing.
Not often.
So
even with gigabit LTE, there is a massive push for little tiny microcells on top of buildings and cities that you would never notice.
There's a lot of push for
that
also,
would give you line of sight.
Hey, all of the streetlights might have a module added to them.
That's not going to happen.
That'd be.
It's actually built into the smart light bulb when you screw it in.
Okay.
Just gets magical data from nowhere.
Yeah.
Just everything in your house. Your house
it's just like a Wi-Fi repeater, essentially.
Yeah.
I see no reason why this can't work.
I mean, why not?
Jeremy quickly posted about the Windows 10 VR update. So are you excited about 3D Paint now?
Hey, it looks sexy, doesn't it?
No, it never did.
If you've got goggles to
is there a video
in
for
3D.
This, or should we be trying this? Is this a thing already?
What?
Well, it depends. I mean, it started to be pushed out, but the schedule is bizarrely unpredictable, and you don't know when you're going to get it.
Well, no, you can
manually install it, but you might not want to quite yet.
That's fine.
I mean, it works. We put it on a few machines at the office, but
I put it on my production machine. I'm a rebel.
And there's a lot of people that are going to be really, really happy about Story Remix, which is Movie Maker that they dumped several generations back.
For build, Story Remix actually looks very impressive with what you can do easily.
Let me get this.
It's like a Movie Maker on steroids.
Let me get this straight. They brought back Movie Maker, but they took out Paint.
No, they have Paint 3D.
Well,
I know they have Paint 3D. It's not the same. You just need to place the Control V, the thing you screenshotted, really quickly. I don't think Paint 3D is that thing.
You've never tried it though, have you?
I have. I don't need to morph it around on the face of a cube. I just need to save the dang screenshot.
No,
you're not painting right then.
And besides, Paint is still there. Just start the process. It's just not in the start menu.
So in general,
Microsoft never actually gets rid of anything.
Yeah.
So it's still there. They removed
Microsoft never dumps anything.
All of this heartache by people, and all they did was remove the shortcut.
Yeah,
is that usual. Seriously what's going on here? Why even
90% of people complaining about Microsoft are because a shortcut disappeared and they're not bright enough to see if the actual executable is still around.
I just don't understand why.
Also, I just opened Paint 3D and you can totally just paste in screenshot the same way you would have in Paint.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, it's just like it works.
It just works. Okay, but you have to have gone to the App Store to install it.
I think it's bundled with the OS now.
Oh,
yes,
it was supposedly an app.
This update.
Okay. Well, as long as it's there and I can still just run the thing, then I'm happy. All right.
And then the other big thing with this
rant over
as the title implies, this is the mixed reality update. It's in preparation because Microsoft is going to be launching a whole crap load of VR headsets that don't need a base station. They just needed HDMI and USB connected to the machine, and it works. A lot of people picked up an Oculus or Vive and didn't really get past the whole setup thing because it isn't perfectly logical for someone who's not really used to that sort of thing. They want to plug it in and, ooh, I can see everything. The Microsoft ones are going to be like that, and they'll also run on like a Skylake processor, so you don't need quite the same heft as you will if you're trying to run one of these gaming VRs. And the actual operating system itself is going to have some inclusion for being able to interact with it in VR, and expect VR Minecraft to be hitting anytime soon. There is two things to keep in mind. If you went out and bought a Razer laptop, don't upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
Razer's drivers are not compatible. They need to upgrade them, and Razer's admitted that, yeah, okay, sorry, we kind of screwed the pooch on this one. So don't upgrade it. And then if you've got one of the brand new Surfaces, yeah, I just hold off a bit.
That's funny.
It's kind of a foot in the mouth for Microsoft, but at the same time, the market share on those brand new Surfaces is still tiny enough that not a lot of people are screaming, but the ones that have them, a lot of people are screaming. Not all, but a lot.
I think if your Razer laptop's old enough, it won't matter. This is like a 2015, and I didn't even install any Razer-specific drivers.
Yeah, it's probably the brand new ones.
It's literally just like, default one. And it even found like it does the, whatever that's called, where it's passing the GPU through the CPU pathway. It can use the integrated or the discrete.
That's just built into the video driver.
Yeah.
It can switch. Yeah. Oh, like it just all worked without anything special.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Our last bit of news, the world's only X299 Mini-ITX motherboard, the ASRock X299E ITX AC. They did it. The Photoshop said it was impossible.
No. The Photoshop says the Threadripper is impossible.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
You're right. This one's still kind of crazy. They had to rotate the socket 90 degrees. There's still 4 channels, but it is SODIMM.
There are 5 SODIMM slots, though.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
There's one to the left of the
4.
socket.
That's not a SODIMM slot.
That's the M.2.
No, they're using
That's
a
an
SODIMM slot
M.2
with an M.2 daughter board.
Oh,
on it. It's a SODIMM
okay,
slot.
fair enough.
Oh, right here.
It's an M.2 SODIMM.
Yeah.
M.2 DIMM.
It's
DIMM.2.
still got 6 SATA ports.
There are 3 M.2 slots on this motherboard.
Yeah, if you flip it over
Yeah.
or just scroll down a little bit.
on the back there. Remember I was complaining that there was
can
only
see
2,
where they stuck
or no,
them
there's
on.
only 2 on the back. Yeah, there you go. So there's 2 on the back of the board.
Wow.
Yep.
Which is
And then if you
a
scroll
damn
to the
good
right,
idea.
I was complaining there wasn't
okay.
4, so you can do VRock with 4.
and I
On the
wanted to
Mini-ITX
slap
board.
it.
Be able to
Mini-ITX
anyways, 'cause
board.
one of them's
Nice.
got the Wi-Fi card in it.
And look
Yeah.
at that.
I doubt it has the VRock header on it for the key.
There's a,
That's true.
there's a Bits Power water block, full cover water
full
block
coverage.
for
Specifically designed for it.
Covers the CPU and the VRMs. Because you also need to cover the VRMs.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
there's no room for a dang VRM heatsink.
Yeah,
no.
actually,
The
so
VRMs are on a daughter board.
is
Is
that
to
this
the-
right
to the
here?
right
does that
side.
water block
You need to
not
scroll over,
cover it?
Ryan.
You need to
You
scroll
can't
over
see
to the right. You can't anymore
Can't
further.
scroll anymore.
He can't even pinch it.
Here, hold on.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom.
So I wonder if that
Yeah.
block does hit those.
I don't know.
It'd have to be the side of the block would have to make contact. You stick like a...
Well, if you look, it
It
looks
looks
like there
it
is something
does.
sort of coming out of the side
Yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, actually, I think that's just like the tubing and lights. I don't know.
I like how there's also the daughter board sticking up for the side boards.
Yes.
We can't stick these off the edge.
Who asked for this?
I'm
I guess
calling
we
it.
did.
I'm calling it. They're doing a Threadripper one.
Well, I
They're
mean,
gonna figure it out. It's
Somebody's
just gonna,
figure
it's
out.
just gonna be like a
Literally
90-degree
every
angle
as
of
big as
daughter
that bloody
boards.
water
It'll have
cooler.
one DIMM slot, of course.
Yeah, there's the socket for
Threadripper.
Threadripper.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
The rest
Right,
of the
Jeremy.
motherboard's just gonna be 90 degrees sticking out. They're gonna be
All the DIMMs go on the back.
yeah, yeah. All the DIMMs on the back.
Everything else just goes on the Threadripper goes on the bottom. How about that?
So you start with the socket being a
everything else.
structural part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
It's actually a weight-bearing socket now.
yeah.
802.11ac, USB 3.1 Gen Type A and C.
Put an 18-core processor in this thing and with a tiny system.
I mean, kind of tiny because you still got to cool it.
I mean,
So you either
yeah.
got to do water cooling, which is not tiny.
Do you need? Is the water block required?
And yet,
No,
I don't. Well,
no, it's not
I think
required.
so.
Stick a Sebastian style
can
fan
mount
on
a
that
standard
bad boy.
cord.
I mean, there's still
Or
like the
Mori.
normal mounting holes here. You can see.
Put a Mori style heatsink on there, and it'd be like the size of the board.
Yeah, but I mean, you could
stick
do
GTX 1080Ti at the bottom.
Yeah.
like Corsair has that super low profile.
I'm sorry. Did you say 1080 Ti?
1080 Ti. I don't know what he's. He tried to abbreviate Ti.
I was like, it's either Ti or Ti. TEA was not on the list of
It's a
options.
Canadian thing.
It's Jeremy.
His eye got lost in the Canadian packet loss.
Oh, so okay. There's that board.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
cool.
get into our hardware software picks of the week.
Seriously, Ryan, that was your pick?
Right quick. What?
Right quick.
What do you mean?
Ken, do you have a pick?
No,
That's fine.
I'm not on this podcast.
Just open up the links.
I will delete you.
So this is mine, and this is kind of a cheat for this stuff. So we have bourbon bottles, and our FedEx driver showed me this cool trick where you can make them into tiki bottles, tiki torches, essentially. All right, you basically drink all the liquor. Step one. Step
Check.
2, rinse it out. Step 3,
not
fill
yet
it with
check.
some fill it like a quarter way with some pea gravel. Fill it with citronella oil. Put a wick in. Light it on fire. Like those are essentially the steps you have. Now, what they have, so because wine bottles have a standard opening,
Yep.
right? They sell these kits on Amazon. So like 4 of them that come with the wick, the flange essentially at the top, and the snuffers, if you will, out there, the brass caps. And you just have a wine bottle. You step 1, drink the wine. Step 2, rinse it out. Step 3, fill it with citronella oil or stone or whatever you want to do with that March. Now the benefit here is you can see that there's like black rubber gaskets,
Yeah, O-rings.
O-rings around it. Like mine don't have any of that. If my bourbon bottle based ones fell over, oil would just come out.
And then you'd have fire everywhere.
I mean, in theory.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a little bit better. I don't know if it's like how tight or how perfectly the seal is. It's better than no seal, which is what I have. So,
right.
But again, you're putting a third of the bottle as pea gravel on the bottom, and the weight should keep it down. And then you light it up, and it looks pretty, and it keeps bugs away.
So
and you're recycling your bottles.
So almost free tiki torches. You have to buy this kit.
And you have to buy the oil.
And drink the wine.
And the oil.
And drink the wine. Yeah.
And buy the wine.
Don't mix those up.
Super easy to do. And, if it's kind of a nice art piece, like if you,
remove the plastic part.
Yeah, that's if,
What kind of wine are you drinking that's got plastic lips on it?
These are for other bottles. Those clearly
That's
aren't
like-
just for
I don't think these are meant for box wine.
Tiki Torch.
Challenge accepted.
Are these appropriate for?
Box wine tiki torch?
See, so this one, what they did was looks like they filled it with like marbles or those little glass rocks.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
then,
want something to displace because you don't need that much freaking tiki torch oil in the thing.
You don't tell me what I need. One,
I'm just saying.
and
like,
two, you're probably right. But yeah, it's a neat
You'd be a
idea.
little bit more of a hipster at the next rally in Charlottesville with your tiki torch. Yep.
I made my own tiki torch. It's made out of my
I
favorite
didn't have
wine
to buy it
bottle.
at Home Depot for this white nationalism rally.
I will say, having gone to Home Depot to try to find torch oil, they were all out of it.
They
were all out of it. So.
Oh.
Well, you do live in Kentucky.
What are you saying, Josh? What are you saying?
Up next, who has the KF concept?
That's me.
Who was that?
Why am I?
No. Who's next? What is your product?
Who is it?
Allyn. I don't know why this is out of order. It goes Ryan, Allyn, Josh, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jeremy. So we're okay. You're up here. Tell me what you got.
Well, I was fishing around. I was going to go for an incredibly cheap power supply, and then I decided to go with an incredibly good deal on a decent brand new TV.
That's not a power supply. That's not even the same category of products.
Well, no, but I got distracted by the $1,000 off coupon.
Oh.
Yeah, that works.
So, so 120 hertz, 4K, active HDR with Dolby Vision Smart if you want it.
Yeah.
But it's a 65-incher for $1,100 Canadian, which is significantly less.
Holy crap.
Than most of your normal current generation ones. And it is a current generation LG.
$600 for a 65-inch 4K TV
It's not really $600.
Yeah.
in US dollars. No, it said in US dollars in parentheses at the go up.
877.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were real close.
Limited
Alan,
time
real
offer,
close.
so grab them as you can.
Oh,
But
man.
yeah, that is just a damn good deal.
Yep.
So you got the TV,
like
but your computer still doesn't work because you need a power supply?
I don't know. It was a $450 power supply that I think all told was $24.
Oh, are you talking about you needed a power supply to fix your other television? Is that
No,
what
Oh, no.
He, this is,
No, I'm
he
just-
went
I was
searching for
shopping
a
around for
pick.
deals.
He didn't buy this.
Oh, all right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Josh, what do you got for me?
Okay, this is more of kind of software in that it's streaming, but
Sure.
wife and I sat down and watched this thing over the last couple of days, and it's a fantastic series, Mindhunter on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you need to. The guy who plays Ed Kemper, I mean, it just hooks you on in.
Wait, do we need to blur this out?
You know, what's that?
Do we need to blur that picture out?
Why?
What's he holding a picture of?
Sort of, but
yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
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 Anyway.
All right.
But yeah, it's
Really?
well written, well acted, well directed. Production values top notch. See that guy, episode 2, the big tall guy. That's Ed Kemper,
Oh, okay.
a 6'9" serial killer who weighed in between 250 and 300 pounds.
Not exactly
So
inconspicuous.
he was very good at his job.
At his job, so to speak. Got it.
Yes,
That's on Netflix.
But
Okay.
it's fascinating. If you don't have Netflix, well, this is a good reason to get it because it's good.
Fair enough.
So is this one of those where you're going to tell me it gets better after this first episode? I
first
made it
episode
halfway
was a
through the
little
first
wooden.
episode and turned it off.
Yeah, no, the first episode was a little wooden, but then
It was awful.
it accelerated quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I
So,
literally watched it last night because you had been mentioning it, and I made it
Mhm.
till he'd hooked up with the gal at the bar and was headed home. Like, this is just abysmally awful, and turned it off.
It
So,
was,
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, the first half of the first episode was a little, but after that, it rolls quickly.
All right.
Okay.
Maybe.
Alan,
it
you're
another
last.
shot.
All right, so there used to be this trick you could do in photography where if you wanted to have a variable filter, like a variable neutral density style filter, you can take 2 circular polarizer filters and screw them on top of each other. And then if you kind of crossed the phase of the polarization, it would make it progressively darker.
Okay.
Right? Well, you have to buy 2 CPL filters to accomplish that. Well, people started making just like single packaged things that has both of these things in there, and you can buy it, and they used to be pretty expensive, and they've been getting cheaper. So now for like 20,
How do you adjust the darkness level of it?
you just rotate it.
Okay.
Right,
So
but-
it is a polarization.
It's still 2 pieces of
Okay.
polarized film in there.
One
but
of them stationary.
just one
of them,
stationary,
I got
the
it.
other one rotates. And there's like, you could tell there's a little grip, you know, kind of like teeth on the edge of it that you just kind of grab onto and, spin.
Yeah.
And it's less of a pain in the butt to use than the stacked pair of CPLs, because with those, if you try to turn one, you might turn both because they both rotate, right? With this thing, you just,
Is this so I can take pictures of the sun?
No, it's actually not
Yes.
quite enough for that because, okay, I take that back. You can take
This is
pictures of the
definitely a
sun.
picture I want over here on
If
the
you
right.
if you crank it to the max it will do, you
Yeah.
can do that. But also when you're at the max, you get some weird artifacts, like effects that, makes it not a
Got it.
neutral density filter anymore. Like it was turning the sun purple and stuff like that,
Fair
But
enough.
that only happens when you go all the way to the max. It's not meant to operate that far.
Mm.
So if you want to do sun pictures, you still need like some Mylar film for that. But this will cover you,
Cool.
All
All right, everybody. That will be it for the episode. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. PCPer.com/podcast. Go there and find our backlinks, our show notes, our picks of the week, RSS feeds, video files, all the stuff you need to access to continue to enjoy, or whatever you do with our podcast, can all be found there. We're running late, so I'm going to end it there. Thanks, everybody. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
Good night.